Snails were widely noted and used in divination. The Greek poet Hesiod wrote that snails signified the time to harvest by climbing the stalks, while the Aztec moon god Texistecatl bore a snail shell on his back. This symbolized rebirth. The snail's penchant for appearing and disappearing was analogized with the moon. Because of its slowness, the snail has traditionally been seen as a symbol of laziness. In Mayan mythology, the snail is associated with sexual desire, being personified by the god Wayeb. Professor Ronald Chase of McGill University in Montreal has suggested the ancient myth of Cupid's arrows might be based on early observations of the love dart behavior of the land snail species Cornu aspersum. In contemporary speech, the expression, a snail's pace, is often used to describe a slow, inefficient process. The phrase, snail mail, is used to mean regular postal service delivery of paper messages as opposed to the delivery of email, which can be virtually instantaneous. In medieval and Renaissance manuscripts, snails are depicted as a comic relief due to the similarity between the armor of knights and the shell of snails. Kiong Emas, Javanese and Indonesian for golden snail, is a popular Javanese folklore about a princess magically transformed and contained in a golden snail shell. The folklore is a part of popular Javanese Panji cycle telling the stories about the Prince Panji Asmoro Bangun, also known as Raden Inu Kertapati, and his consort, Princess Dwi Sakartaji, also known as Dwi Chandra Karana. Certain varieties of snails, notably the family Maricidae, produce a secretion that is a color-fast natural dye. The ancient Tyrian purple was made in this way, as were other purple and blue dyes. The extreme expense of extracting this secretion as sufficient quantities limited its use to the very wealthy. It is such dyes as these that led to certain shades of purple and blue being associated with royalty and wealth. A snail is, in loose terms, a shelled gastropod. The name is most often applied to land snails, terrestrial pulmonate gastropod mollusks. However, the common name snail is also used for most of the members of the molluscan class Gastropoda that have a coiled shell that is large enough for the animal to retract completely into. When the word snail is used in this most general sense, it includes not just land snails but also numerous species of sea snails and freshwater snails. Gastropods that naturally lack a shell, or have only an internal shell, are mostly called slugs, and land snails that have only a very small shell, that they cannot retract into, are often called semi-slugs. Snails have considerable human relevance, including as food items, as pests, and as vectors of disease, and their shells are used as decorative objects and are incorporated into jewelry. The snail has also had some cultural significance, tending to be associated with lethargy. The snail has also been used as a figure of speech in reference to slow-moving things. The snail is the same or similar shape as the cochlea. Land snails are known as an agricultural and garden pest, but some species are an edible delicacy and occasionally household pets. In addition, their mucus can also be used for skin care products. There are a variety of snail control measures that gardeners and farmers use in an attempt to reduce damage to valuable plants. Traditional pesticides are still used, as are many less toxic control options such as concentrated garlic or wormwood solutions. Copper metal is also a snail repellent, and thus a copper band around the trunk of a tree will prevent snails from climbing up and reaching the foliage and fruit. A layer of a dry, finely ground, and scratchy substance such as diatomaceous earth can also deter snails. The Decolate snail, Rumina decolata, will capture and eat garden snails, and because of this it has sometimes been introduced as a biological pest control agent. However, this is not without problems, as the Decolate snail is just as likely to attack and devour other gastropods that may represent a valuable part of the native fauna of the region. Throughout history, snails have been kept as pets. There are many famous snails such as Lefty, born Jeremy, and within fiction, Gary and Brian the snail.